In a small town in Ohio, where mornings smelled like brewed coffee and old regrets, lived a woman named Eleanor Grace Whitman. Most people didn't notice her. She was the woman who stood patiently in grocery lines, who smiled politely at strangers, who said, "I'm fine," even when she wasn't. Eleanor was 54 years old, a widow, a mother of two grown children, and a woman who had slowly disappeared inside her own life. She lived in a modest house on Maple Street, a house she and her late husband had bought when dreams were still alive and laughter echoed through the halls. Now the house was quiet, too quiet. The walls held memories but no voices. Every morning Eleanor woke up at 5:30 a.m., not because she had somewhere to go, but because her body had forgotten how to sleep peacefully. She made herself a cup of tea, sat by the window, and watched the world move without her. Her husband, Robert, had died 8 years ago from a sudden heart attack. One moment he was tying his shoes, the next he was gone. With him died the version of Eleanor who laughed freely. After Robert's death, Eleanor lived for her children, her daughter Melissa and her son Daniel. She raised them with everything she had, emotionally, financially, physically. She skipped meals so they could eat better. She wore old clothes so they could have new ones. She worked two jobs while hiding her exhaustion behind a smile, and she never complained, because that's what strong women do. As the years passed, Melissa and Daniel grew up and moved away. Melissa married young and moved to Florida. Daniel got a job in California. They called less often, then only on holidays, then sometimes not even then. Eleanor understood, or at least she told herself she did. They have their own lives, she whispered to herself, while staring at her silent phone. Her only steady income was her Social Security check, small but enough to survive modestly. Eleanor never asked for more. She never asked for help, until the winter of her 54th year. It was colder than usual that year. The heating bill doubled, her arthritis worsened, and the loneliness pressed heavier than ever. Melissa called one evening. "Mom, I'm in a tight spot," she said. "Just for a little while. Can you help me out?" Eleanor didn't hesitate. "Of course, sweetheart," she said. Melissa asked her mother to temporarily manage her Social Security money online, saying she'd help with bills and budgeting. Eleanor trusted her daughter. Why wouldn't she? She had given Melissa life. She had given her everything. The first month passed. Eleanor waited for her check. Nothing came. She called the Social Security office and learned something that made her hands shake. The money had been withdrawn by Melissa. Eleanor called her daughter repeatedly. No answer. Days passed. Her fridge grew emptier. She began eating toast once a day. Sometimes nothing. Then, one afternoon, Melissa posted pictures on social media. She was at the beach, smiling, sun-kissed, holding a drink in her hand. Eleanor stared at the screen in disbelief. That night, Melissa finally called. "Mom, don't be dramatic," she said casually. "I needed a break. I'll send you money later." Later. That word cut deeper than silence. Weeks passed. No money came. Eleanor sold her wedding ring to pay for heating. She turned off lights to save electricity. She wrapped herself in old blankets and cried quietly at night. She didn't tell anyone, because she was raised to believe that asking for help was weakness. One evening she fainted while walking to the bathroom. When she woke up on the cold floor, she realized something painful. If she died tonight, no one would know. No one would come. And that thought broke her in a way nothing else ever had. The next morning, Eleanor did something she had never done before. She stood up for herself. She went to the local community center and spoke to a social worker named Angela. For the first time in years, Eleanor told the truth about the hunger, about the betrayal, about the loneliness. Angela listened, really listened. And then she said words Eleanor would never forget. "Being a mother doesn't mean you stop being a human being." With help, Eleanor reported the misuse of her benefits. Her payments were restored. She was enrolled in food assistance and medical care, but something more important happened. Eleanor found her voice. Eleanor joined a women's support group. She began volunteering at a local library, reading stories to children. Children who listened to her. Children who smiled at her. For the first time in years, she felt seen. Melissa eventually called again. This time, Eleanor didn't cry. I love you, Eleanor said calmly, but I will not allow you to hurt me anymore. It was the hardest sentence she had ever spoken, and the most powerful. On Eleanor's 55th birthday, she baked herself a small cake. She sat by the window again, but this time she smiled. She wasn't invisible anymore. Not to the world, not to herself. She had learned that strength isn't about silent suffering. Strength is about survival, about self-respect, about knowing that even after betrayal, even after loneliness, a woman can rise again. And Eleanor Grace Whitman did.